Bună ziua, bine ați venit. Well, I've had a few requests on the channel to do some more comparisons between life in the UK and life in Romania. And I've done a few video clips recently which looked at foreign countries. And okay, the title of the channel is Living in Romania, so let's talk about living in Romania and compare it with my experience of living in the UK. I've now been here for 3 years and have enjoyed every minute of that, and we'll go through a few aspects of life in each country. Firstly, mortgages and buying a property. This has become almost impossible in England for young people because you need to borrow about 4.5 times your salary. You have to have a large deposit to put down. The average price of a house in England is £270,000, and that means you need an income of something like £60,000 to be able to get a mortgage. Well, seeing as the average wage is about 28,000, that's just out of reach for most people. So it's absolutely terrible. But I was interested to compare that with Romania, because I said in a previous vlog that most Romanians seem to live in their own properties that they have bought or their family have bought for them. Now, I know you don't think of your salaries on an annual basis as we do in the UK, but you think of it on a monthly basis. But the average annual salary in Romania is €8,500, and a 2-bedroom property in Craiova, where I live, would cost you 70,000. So that's 6 times approximately 6 times the salary that you would need to borrow. So it's actually more expensive proportionately in Romania to buy a property than it is in the UK. The UK has just gone absolutely crazy. We heard today inflation's gone up to 9.4%. I think it's probably a bit higher than that in reality, and I'm sure it's similar or a little bit higher in Romania. So that's one comparison between buying a property. I think it's perceived as being more expensive in England, but actually it may be more expensive in Romania, in the city anyway. I talked about engineers and teachers being predominantly female in Romania. That's been my experience. I mean, obviously there are male teachers and there are male engineers, but it would be very unusual to find a male engineer, a female engineer in the UK. That's partly because of a misplaced notion that British people don't understand what an engineer is. An engineer is a highly qualified professional working probably with IT, organising projects, whether civil engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, you name it. If you say the word engineer in Germany, people think you're extremely highly qualified, and it's a mark of respect. In England, they think of a mechanic. They think of some grease monkey in a garage fixing your car. That's an engineer. They don't understand the difference between engineer and mechanic. An engineer doesn't have to get his or her hands dirty, as the carefully manicured nails of my engineer friends who are female would attest. So I think there's a bit of a miscomprehension there, and that's a cultural misunderstanding in England, which is why women don't tend to go into engineering, which is a big shame. Other differences. There's a big LGBT debate going on in England. We have an election at the moment for the next Prime Minister, and LGBT rights have been part of that debate. I was surprised and pleased to see that there was a big march in Bucharest a couple of weeks ago on behalf of the LGBT community. Now, it seems to me that Romanians in general don't really tolerate or appreciate people of diverse sexualities. So I certainly haven't met anyone who is gay, or maybe I have, but they haven't admitted to being gay in Romania, whereas I have friends who are gay in the UK. I think it's a big cultural change, and it takes time and it takes transition. I suspect the church has a lot to do with that, but I'd be interested in any comments below. I don't know what the future is for the LGBT populace in Romania. I suspect it will take a long time, but it was encouraging to see more acceptance in Bucharest the other week. Village life. All I've noticed, I mean, driving through villages, that as you drive through a Romanian village, everyone has something to sell. They will sit under an umbrella and be selling you grapes or țuica or wine or fruit or veg. And the other thing is, people, old ladies who sit on benches by the side of the road and just watch the world go by. I think that's rather wonderful. They seem very happy to watch the world go by, and there are more old ladies than old gentlemen for obvious reasons, because ladies live longer than gentlemen. But that's been fascinating. And of course, a feature of the countryside are the wooden carriages or carts drawn by horses that you see, which act as a form of transport and are endemic and part of village life in the Romanian countryside. It's rather more worrying when you see them on the main roads and you have to swerve to avoid them. I said earlier, Romanians love travelling abroad, and all credit to them. Having been banned from travel for so many years, they've really embraced travel and taken every opportunity to travel. And it's almost shameful to go on holiday on your own coastline when there are better beaches in Bulgaria or Greece or Turkey. So you prefer to go there. And then a feature of Romanian society is the selfie. So what you have to do is document your travel and post it on Facebook, and then your friends can like it, and you get 100 to 200 likes for each photo. I think that's rather sweet, actually, and is lovely. But it's terrific because Romanians are keeping the tourist industry going, and they also are very proud people, as I've said before, with flags being displayed everywhere, and are extremely proud of the most beautiful regions of Romania. And most of my friends from here in Oltenia would travel to Transylvania or Maramureș, and recommend that for holidaying. I've been to Transylvania. I have yet to go to Maramureș, and I can't wait. Abia aștept. Romanians have a complicated, these are all generalizations, by the way, as you'll have realized. They're mainly for my English friends, but most of my viewers are Romanian, so you please correct any misconceptions I have. They have a complicated attitude towards animal welfare. Complicated in probably two ways. Every time I go through a Romanian village, back to villages, dogs seem to be on chains and are effectively guard dogs, but don't seem to be let off the chains. I mean, maybe they are occasionally, but it seems to me, okay, they have a hutch or a kennel, and it doesn't seem a very pleasant existence for a dog to be chained up for its life, or to be caged, which a lot of them are. I find that a little bit repellent, to be honest. I don't think I don't think you have a dog to keep it on a chain like that. There are charities, and one is indeed run by a friend of mine here in Dulwich, to rehouse dogs. Stray dogs are caught and then rehoused. And another friend of mine in England has been very active in rehousing dogs from Romania. They're treated for all sorts of diseases. They're chipped, and then off they go to England to a new owner there. So there is a rehousing program for dogs, which is a vast improvement. When I first came to Romania about 8 years ago, there were packs of dogs in Craiova, and it was rather worrying walking past them, because they could be quite aggressive. Since then, that has now been controlled, and yeah, I think the welfare of dogs seems to be in a better place, but I do worry about those dogs being chained up in villages. I mean, why have a dog and just chain it up? You know, I suppose they're there to warn the owner if someone's breaking in. Similarly, the famous there's the sheepdog Romanian variety. I think there are two varieties. There's one from the Carpathians and one from Bucovina. The Ciobanesc, the sheepdog, who is a huge animal, lives about 12 or 14 years, has a double coat, a bit like a border terrier to keep the rain off, and is there to look after the flock of sheep during the transhumance, during the transition, and indeed during the summer when the sheep are up in the hills. And these dogs will fight off packs of wolves, bears. Very brave dogs and very loyal to their owner, the Choban, the shepherd. So I've met one or two. I mean, they're big. They are big dogs, and you don't mess with them because they don't like strangers. But they're an interesting feature of Romanian rural society, the Ciobanesc. Okay, road sweepers. Romania is a remarkably clean country in the towns. Once you leave the towns, I mean, people don't seem to have much sense of community or sense of environmental responsibility, I'm afraid to say. They drop litter. I'm not saying everyone does this. I'm saying some people drop litter anywhere. So you go to a Romanian beauty spot and you're going to find it's filled with litter. I've been very disappointed by that. That's a slight critique. However, let me balance that with a measure of praise for the ladies, in the most part, who sweep our streets every single day. There is not an errant leaf in our street because they're swept up by the ladies who turn out 7 days a week. Can you imagine that? In England, we have a rubbish collection every 2 weeks. Imagine what that is like in the summer. The smell from your bin is rancid, and 1 week they will collect your recycling, and the next week they will collect your kitchen waste. Here, your waste is collected every day, and these ladies go around emptying the waste baskets, the litter bins, and sweeping the streets. And there's a clean feel to the streets in the city of Craiova, anyway, where I am. I can only talk about Craiova because that's the only city I know. So, eating. Yeah, I've talked about food in a previous vlog. I haven't talked about the quantities of food that people eat. I'm flabbergasted, astounded by the amount of food that Romanians can put away. Some of them remain svelte and slim, some don't. But they all eat a lot. On the trip to Bulgaria last week, we left at 7 o'clock in the morning from Craiova, and people were snacking away then with a sort of early breakfast sandwich and some coffee or some water or something. And every time we got back on the bus, they would produce another sandwich or another a banana or something else, or a pack of biscuits or something, and they would be eating the whole time. They ate throughout the whole day, and then we had a sort of late lunch, and then after the lunch they were snacking again. I mean, it was just continual. You go to a Romanian party and it will go on a long time. It will typically start maybe 1 o'clock in the afternoon with the aperitif. Aperitif in English means a drink, but in Romanian it means a first course, starter course. So it's a platter, a panoply of cold meats, fruits, vegetables, dips, pork will appear with bread, and people will eat a great deal. Then there'll be a little rest while the men of the family go out to the barbecue and start the fritura, start frying away mici and cutlets and steak, and then that's brought back in, and then the eating continues, and then there'll be another rest, and then the desserts will be brought out, a series of puddings. So it goes on a while. It will go on till the late evening. So the meal just keeps rolling on, but the people keep feeding themselves. For me, I'm a light eater, despite appearances to the contrary, and it's absolutely incredible how much Romanians can put away. Good for them. Okay, they know how to enjoy themselves. Returning to the issue of animals in the city here. Okay, a few people have dogs in their flats, in their block. There are lots of cats, stray cats around, and Romanians are extraordinarily kind towards the cats. They feed them, they leave water for them, they look after them, and the cats seem to live in the betch, in the basements of the apartment blocks. There'll normally be a hole, and they can get into the basement, and that's where they sleep when it gets cold, or where their base is. But they are fed. I'm very pleased to report. I'm very anti-zoos and anti-captivity of animals, and Romania passed a law in 2017 banning the use of wild animals in circuses. There are a lot of circuses along the coast, especially in the summer, and you see a lot of circus acts, but wild animals no longer form part of that, which is excellent. I hope the next stage, I've seen there's an aqua park in Constanța using dolphins to basically ferry their keepers around the pool for the entertainment of tourists. I think that's totally wrong, and I hope that will be banned as well in the near future, because no animal deserves a sordid existence like that. Romanians are very generous people. I think all of them. I mean, I only know Oltenians. They're extremely generous. If I've ever been short of money at a meal or for a drink, it's just not been a question. You know, someone has instantly paid or lent me the few lei I needed. I haven't seen many examples of homelessness in Romania. I've seen 1 or 2 homeless people in my area, and they were fed by the locality. People from the area would every day take them food. They knew where their plot was, where they stayed, and they would take them food, which I think is excellent. There is also the notion of the pomana, which is the celebration of a dead person for, I think, 7 years after their death, which we don't have in the UK. In the UK, once you've been buried, that's it. It's over. It's finished. You're not forgotten, but we don't celebrate your life anymore. But here, you'll find the poor, the homeless, in the cemeteries, when there's a pomana, and they will be given food by those hosting the pomana, which is a celebration of the dead person. So they get free food. When you think in the UK, there are now more food banks than McDonald's. A food bank, for my Romanian friends, is where you can go, and sometimes you need to have a certificate to prove that you can't actually feed your family, and you are given free food from supermarkets or from donations. It is totally shameful that we have more food banks than McDonald's, and it's absolutely terrible. But you do see poverty here. You see poverty around the rubbish bins, with people regularly going through the rubbish to see what they can glean from the rubbish, and that's very sad. So I'm not saying that Romania is a rich country, because it really isn't. I talked about pomana, the notion of burials. In the UK, sometimes you have to wait for 2 to 3 weeks to be buried, or more likely cremated, because cremation is. Yeah, sorry about that slight interruption. I was talking about cremation and how it's more usual in the UK. There aren't many crematoriums, I think, or crematoria in Romania. Maybe 2 or 3. I know there's one in Bucharest, one in Cluj, because the Orthodox Church prefers people to be buried. That's the norm. But in the UK, you would go to be stored in a morgue, a refrigerated morgue, or a funeral parlour, until there's a space at the crematorium, which, as I said, can take up to 2 to 3 weeks. Seeing a GP in the UK, the NHS is a wonderful system, free at the point of need, really. When you go to a doctor, you're seen and you get a prescription, and there is no charge. You have to pay for the prescription, but otherwise the service you get from the NHS, if you go to a hospital or whatever, is free of charge. But the system is breaking down, because we have a huge shortage of doctors. We're something like 10,000 doctors light in the NHS, and that's a minimum figure. A lot of nurse vacancies in hospitals. So the system is proving very difficult to sustain, and that's for a variety of political reasons, which I won't go into here. What I've been impressed with here is that you can go and see a GP, a médic de familia, almost immediately. You just queue up and you go to see them, and then you're given a prescription or a reference to a specialist, which is perfect. So I think your system stacks up well if you have insurance. If you don't have insurance, I'm sure the same problems pertain in Romania as in the UK. Offers, finally, I think my final point. Romanians have a very keen eye for offers in supermarkets. We religiously look at Super Sambata in Lidl and whatever offers there are in Kaufland, and people will queue up and wait for half an hour for a meat offer, for example, on the Kaufland meat counter, because they're used to queuing. It's part of the psyche. We Brits think we're the champions at queuing, but Romanians are probably more used to queuing than we are. And offers are to be garnered, are to be snapped up. Even if you don't need it now, you may use it later. So we use offers a great deal. Okay, well, it's been lovely talking to you again about my impressions, possibly incorrect, of living in Romania. If you think they're incorrect, put a comment below. If you like what you've seen, tick the like box, and otherwise enjoy this summer and stay out of the sun this weekend, because we're heading towards the same temperatures, canicula, as we've had in the UK. Yesterday, 40.3 degrees was a world record for us. It'll be 40 here this weekend, so stay safe, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you very much for watching.